After leaving the state in protest of the Republican redistricting plan for 2 weeks, Texas Democrats plan to return home Monday, as Governor Greg Abbott has called yet another special session of the state legislature. But the nationwide redistricting fight is far from over. Late last night, California Democrats released proposed maps that would likely flip 5 Republican-held seats, giving Democrats 48 of the state's 52 districts, up from 43. It's a direct counter to Republican gains in Texas. State lawmakers will vote on the plan next week. If 2/3 approve, voters will have the final say in a November 4th special election. And as they return to Austin, Texas Democrats are getting some major backup. Today, the Democratic National Committee is organizing hundreds of Fight the Trump Takeover protests in 43 states to condemn Trump-backed redistricting. And this week, former President Obama added his voice to the fight in a call with Texas Democrats.
When you have a democracy that has integrity, then sometimes you may lose an issue. Sometimes you may lose a vote. But you know, because it's fair, if you can persuade the people next time, then you can take the country in a better direction. That's what we need. That's what this country stands for. That's why it's been the envy of the world. That's what we're fighting for. All right? I love y'all.
Thank you.
Safe travels home.
Joining us now, Sarah Satwani, California Redistricting Commissioner. Sarah, thank you very much for coming to the weekend. I want to start the conversation by playing some sound from Texas Governor Greg Abbott and what he had to say, how he characterized what Governor Newsom is doing.
According to Politico, 2/3 of his state disagree with him. It's a joke. He's posturing for the presidency and doing nothing more than that. He's all talk and no action.
Governor Newsom is all talk and no action?
Well, certainly there's action happening here in California. They are moving forward with a ballot proposition to subvert the maps I helped to draw. Maps that are fair, maps that are competitive. Those are things that should be a good thing in a democracy. But unfortunately, that's not the game that's being played at the national level.
How do you justify, Commissioner, asking voters to override the very maps you helped draw? You said you were proud to draw them, but you also have said these are extraordinary times.
These are extraordinary times, and extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. I couldn't be more proud of the maps that we currently have on the books here in California. Our Citizens Redistricting Commission, and I should note, was actually put in place in California by a Republican administration. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. This was a Republican-led initiative, but now over time, because of its fairness, has gained the support of Democrats far and wide. The commission is 14 members, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, and 4 independents. We passed our maps unanimously. That's something you don't see very often in American politics. We have some of the most competitive districts, but sadly, you know, when we hear the president calling on other states to gerrymander their states, California is left with no option but to fire back.
You know, you mentioned Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger being the one to shepherd the independent commission. He is out against what Governor Newsom is trying to do. Says, I'm getting ready for I'm getting ready for the gerrymandering battle. I'm just impressed he still lifted weights at his tender age. But Sarah, in all seriousness, the thing that I find most interesting about this, and that stands in stark contrast to what is happening in Texas, is even though Governor Newsom and Democrats in California are responding in this way, in the end, the voters in California will decide whether California redraws its maps, right?
That's correct, because within our California Constitution, it's the Independent Redistricting Commission that has the power to draw maps only. So in order to do this legally, the governor would need to have the approval of the voters. That's not going to be an easy process. Anytime we have a special election in California, it's a very difficult process. It's very expensive as well. And they're going to have to do their work to go out and mobilize voters to the polls in order to pass this. There's going to need to be a ton of voter education as well. So this is no small feat, but it will require approval of the California voters in order to do this. And I should note, they have this written pretty precisely. This is a carve out. This does not subvert the independent redistricting process, but it would still be in place for 2030.
Commissioner, you talked about the heavy lift that this is going to be. Politico, my old haunt, they have a poll out that found 64% of Californians that were polled support keeping the Independent Redistricting Commission. My friend here likes to note, when we were talking about this earlier today, we want to see those numbers in October. After this voting, after this voter education period takes. What do you think the argument is to those voters who say, we like this Independent Redistricting Commission because it keeps politicians from being able to choose their voters? How do you actually convince people?
Californians are well aware of the threat that the president has made to us directly. Even at the press conference that we had announcing this ballot initiative, nearly 80 ICE agents showed up right outside of the doors. We have seen our neighbors being kidnapped off of the streets. We have seen the executive overreach from the president. We have a real sense here in California and in many places across the nation that democracy is in peril. And that needs to be the message, that at the end of the day, if we do this here in California, it's to serve the greater good of democracy in the United States.
Well, then, Commissioner, what do you say to people like my PBS NewsHour co-buddy David Brooks, who say that, what President Trump did by calling on Texas to do what it's doing is part of sort of the ethical rot that we have in the country, particularly when it comes to gerrymandering and having politicians pick their voters, and that California's response is part of that ethical rot. I disagreed because I think, if somebody's coming to the fight with a knife or something, you got to meet them where they are.
You don't really know weapons that well.
You get where I'm going. And so what do you say?
Can't show up with a slingshot, right?
Thank you. So what do you say to those folks who say, I think the Independent Commission is the way to go, and that what Governor Newsom is doing is just wrong?
I personally have called upon congressional members, Democrats and Republicans, to fight for national redistricting reform. We need independent redistricting commissions in all 50 states by 2030. That's the time when the next redistricting cycle will happen. And we have the time to put that into place. Democrats and Republicans should both stand behind fair redistricting. We should want our democratic institutions to be strong, and independent redistricting is the way to go in all 50 states.